Hi everyone. This is just a quick video meant for folks who use the VyOS operating system, in particular inside GNS3, and especially aimed, of course, at my ITS2300 data networking class. So let's jump right into my DNS3 setup here. So this is a network that we've been using in the data networking class to test various things. There's a VyOS router at the core of it, and I wanted to just very quickly show one of the aspects that it took me a moment to sort of figure out how they were doing things, and so I thought it might be useful to show that here. Let me make sure this guy is where I want it. There. So a couple of things. When we early on, if you look at the VyOS documentation, you'll see things documented at this level. And you can so this is these are this particular command lists all the configuration commands that were issued to create the current running configuration, right? And so we might so you see the command set interfaces Ethernet Ether0 to a particular address, to a particular duplex setting, to a particular hardware, MAC address, and so on. Most of these are defaults. I only put in the address, and then later on, there's a whole section here where I set up our DHCP server. And so you notice that everything starts with set service, DHCP server, shared network name, local, which is the name I picked, and then various other commands underneath that, including several commands that contain the shared network name local, but then also share the subnet that we want this particular setting to apply to. And so one of the ways you can work with VyOS is to treat these command sequences as quote unquote recipes, right? So you could take all of this, copy it to a notepad file, and say I want to duplicate that. You just grab that list of 5 or 6 or 7 lines, paste it into a configure prompt in VyOS, and it'll do the right thing. So that's one way of working with it. If you're and some folks prefer that. A lot of times, especially when I'm doing simple things or I'm exploring, I'd really just prefer to do things at the command line. And yes, there is tab completion, so I could type set serve and then tab DHCP and tab and so on. But it's still pretty you're typing the same stuff over and over and over again. Now, in reality, all of this stuff is hierarchical, the way it's stored. And so if we do just show configuration, we get the information, same information as we got in that command list, but we get it arranged as a hierarchy. So there's interfaces. There is Ethernet Ether0, which is one of the interfaces, and then there is all the information that the commands entered into that interface. We go a bit further down. By the way, every time you display something that's longer than a screen, you get basically a pager. You get something that keeps the information from just scrolling off the top. Spacebar will advance by a screen. The return or enter key will advance by a line. The B key should go backward. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It does go back by the same amount you jumped before, and by the Q gets you out of there if you're not at the very end. But I digress. So here's an even better example. Here's our DHCP server. So there's service DHCP server. Then there's our shared network name local, which is which defines the server. On our edge routers, we had multiple servers with different names. It's really one DHCP server with different configuration blocks. Then there's a command authoritative that applies to the entire server, and then a single server could hand out addresses from different subnets, although it's pretty rare. So there's our subnet definition. So everything that follows now, it is indented further over, is for that subnet. And then there's a bunch of information, and then within the subnet, I could actually pick multiple ranges. So I say I want these 20 addresses, and over here I want another 30 addresses that aren't contiguous to the first 20, so I could have multiple ranges. So that's why there's range 0. That could be range 1, range 2, range 3, and then there's a start and stop for the range. So this is the configuration information is essentially an outline. So wouldn't it be nice if you could jump down to, let's say, the subnet level of the outline and just put in all the information that's underneath that? And fortunately, we can do that. And this is what I want to show you, because for me, if I'm kind of playing around, I'm going to try different things. This is a lovely way of doing it. So we're going to go into Configure. Notice it just says Edit above the above our prompt, and the prompt is the hash mark instead of the $sign now. So I could type a command like set interfaces and Ethernet, if I could type, and so on. I don't want to do that this time. This time I want to jump down a couple levels. So I'm going to say edit interfaces. Now notice the prompt is the information above the prompt has changed. It tells us that we're now editing interfaces. So if I now say set and hit tab to see what options I have, notice that it no longer requires I type interfaces. I can just go ahead and type set Ethernet. I do have to specify a specific address, so Ethernet Ether0. And now I could give it an address or do other things here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. Edit Ethernet Ether0. Notice that our indicator where we are in the outline now changed to interface. So anything I do now, if I just type set, it just gives me the options to set up information for Ether0. So I could just type, so I could type an address. I could say, delete. And it could, so I could say delete address if I wanted to do that. Whoops. Oh, I have a set still in there. So I could delete an address that's assigned to the interface, all without having to type that long string of interfaces, Ethernet, Ether0, and so on. If I type exit, it will pop me back to the top of the edit outline. So now I could do something like edit service DHCP server. Okay, that puts me at the top of the DHCP server list. So I could now do something like set shared network name. Or if I already have a part of the outline, I could say edit shared network name local, and it would now pop me down to editing service DHCP server shared service name local. So now all the set commands are specific to that server, and so I could type the set authoritative, which is already there, but it doesn't hurt to do it again, and it tells me that it was already there. So again, I didn't have to type set service DHCP server shared network name local authoritative. All I had to do is type what is not already shown in this edit field. Super useful, and something I just wanted to show you to kind of go with the next few next few labs we're doing, or if you're working on VyOS and you're kind of, again, sort of like me, you don't want to copy and paste long strings of commands until, if you're configuring something in production, that makes a lot of sense. But if you're just kind of playing around, that's kind of a to me a clunky way of doing that. Your mileage may vary, but to me that feels clunky, and I ought to just sort of play around with, especially if I don't know all the commands that are out there, so they may not be in my list, and I really want to find stuff I can set and do. This is really super useful. So I'm going to, oops, I'm in the wrong place here. I'm going to exit out of here. And I'm going to exit from the configuration mode. Anyway, I hope this was useful, and I will see you in the next video.